Good morning, all. I would like to start with some lighter note. We were talking about Industry 4.0, and it happened to me when I went to my boss, and I asked him for maybe a short leave for today, that I'll be speaking on Industry 5.0 or Manufacturing 5.0. Then it was like, ye kab ho gaya? When this has happened. We are still struggling on Industry 4.0, and now you're talking about 5.0. So when this has happened. I think technology is evolving like the way it's coming, we have never expected, and we are so seeing these entirely coming through very sooner. And we'll be talking on these aspects, how we are going to have these AI ML coming across for manufacturing 5.0. So may I have the, maybe I'll start with Ajay, so take the opportunity.
Hello.
Yeah,
thanks.
So I'll like to ask you for the use cases what we have across your company, and I would like to hear from you how we are going when it comes to the new emerging technologies, AI, ML, how it is impacting our current scenarios and day-to-day aspects.
Yeah, sure. I think I would like to introduce myself here. So I'm looking after information technology. Today, I think we are calling it as a digital function. Most of the MNCs are calling IT function as a digital function because of the digital era, no doubt. So I represent Aquapharm Chemicals, who is into manufacturing of phosphonate chemicals, polymers, and all. So we are Indian MNC, you can say, and from the user base or maybe from the systems point of view, we are catching the trend. So that's what I can express. Now I think you mentioned 5.0. In fact, the question may be for everybody, what is 5.0 in fact? So we have not reached up to 4.0, and what was there in 4.0? How many people know? I don't know. But at least from my point of view, 5 years back I heard 4.0 when there were some presentations from the global team, and they were presenting some mechanical processes, automation, etc., and how 4.0 industry will look like. So my MD had given a good example of the railway era. I mean, how railway got developed actually in the world. In fact, it started from steam engine, and then coal, and then electricity, etc., and its speed journey, etc. So that is nothing but the 4.0 industrialization. That's what he explained, and it was quite relevant, in fact. Now 5.0, I would still say, I mean, it's a concept today. I mean, automation has no boundaries. It will go on like 5.0, 6.0, 10.0, whatever, and it's up to us, I mean, what we call. But yeah, from India perspective and manufacturing perspective, I would like to talk about Aquapharm, in fact. So we have, we are trying to catch up the trend, as I said. So AI, ML, yes, good jargon words, but ultimately behind that, data. Data is the, backbone of everything. If you have data, you can do, or you can expand, you can do many things, in fact, out of it. And then you can call it as AI, ML, whatever. The tools are there available. I can definitely talk on the case studies. So maybe the first case study I can express here is with my earlier organization, wherein we did some sales pricing stuff. So we didn't call it as an AI, but it was quite, touching to the AI, in fact. So we applied some regression method on the existing data on the sales thing. It was huge data with the old ERP, with the new ERP, and associated systems. So when I say associated systems, that means majorly pre-sales and post-sales. So pre-sales was a CRM. We gathered all that data, the existing ERP data, and then we worked on it. So worked on it like we put some algorithm, we used some tools to generate the trends in the pricing thing, which was actually towards catching the behavior of the customer, and that's nothing but your AI. So what Google does today, it's catching the behavior of the customer. So what you think, what you talk, what you put on the internet, it catches automatically, and then you get surprised how it has come like that. So simply, I mean, if you really talk on a subject, maybe after a minute or 5 minutes, you'll get some advertising on your phone on the same subject. So it's like that. I mean, it is catching the behavior of the customer. Same thing is applied into manufacturing also. We call it as an AI or ML, same thing. So on the pricing front, we catch the customer behavior, the seasonality of the customers, when they buy, how they buy, at what volume, at what price, and put some algorithm, some mathematical calculations to come out to the customer behavior. Okay, and then you can throw the prices to the customers. And you won't believe, I think those were really, I would say more than 95% closure to what actually salesperson or sales strategy is. And they were amazed. I mean, they were amazed. So we developed an app on Android and Mac. And then we distributed that to the distributors, to the customers. They were autonomously placing the orders. It were flowing from the app to ERP and then execution. Of course, certain approvals are there in between because manufacturing work, doesn't go without any approval at any stage. That's the human tendency. I mean, you can understand that. So it was quite seamless. I mean, if you take out the approval part of it, then I think it's a humanless operation. So up to that level we achieved. And it was a commodity product. And you won't believe 60% of the revenue was actually, turned out into the automation process, and which was a huge success at that time. In Aquapharm, I think we have also, came across the same thing, but here the methodology was quite different. We used Python, we used some different coding there. Python is, enriched tool for AI today, which is trending at the first rank, you can say. A lot of good libraries are there. I don't know whether you have used it. Even technically, I have also not used it, but I have seen, how the coder or developer have done the coding into it and then placing the results. So it was amazing. It was same thing which I applied based on my earlier experience, and it's quite working well. So AI ML, it's a trend today. People have catched a lot of things on it, and it is establishing. It is establishing based on the data, the only data. So the key is to collect the data from your mechanical system, whether it is a rough data, raw data, garbage data, doesn't matter, but you have to build the data and then further steps on it. So that's what I can express.
That's great, Ajay. That means your data bolta hai.
Of course.
So data bolta hai, to data khilna bhi chahiye. Am I right? So my next question to Mr. Patwardhan, he's coming straight from the end user section where he will be using the technology, or his people will be using technology. Knowing the fact we are the technology people, and we see it from your perspective, how you see these AI, ML are evolving, and how it can help us to do the more operative stuffs. We can say sustainable product, the quality, and the aspect when it comes to QCD, how we see it's evolving around your company, precisely Godrej, I believe. So maybe your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, so as we just spoke about this data bolta hai part of it, and so we need to quickly convert that data into information and then disseminate it to the right place. And so it's like now another term that we hear, that data is the new oil and all that. So, but here the thing is that it's not like we collect it from the sea and then distribute and use it and consume it and that's over. It's actually the data ripens every time it goes through an iteration, and that's what the AI is powering a lot. Once the data is, of course, for that first step is to collect that data, and so we have been in the industry. SCADA is there for a long, long time. So that is the supervisory control and some name that we have given, and data acquisition. We are now at a stage where we are moving next level, which is we can call it as MCADA, MCADA, which is maybe manufacturing. We are talking about manufacturing here more. So like manufacturing control and data acquisition is the bigger, kind of higher level kind of use of data and acquiring that data, which we start with the IoTs and data, various data collection mechanisms, like even including barcode scanners also. become the data collector. Once that data is collected, so then actually the use starts, because data, otherwise, even in our factories, we have a lot of, IoT is there in big way, and so a lot of data is getting collected. We call it as big data and all that. But with, what to do with that data is the main question that all of us grapple with. And many of that where we need to also, thrash out that data in such a way that the right information needs to come, and it has to reach to the right people. So I'll give one example that we have already, now quite a lot of maturity in that. Talking from manufacturing, there is another example that I can give from non-manufacturing, but this manufacturing example, which is quite useful to us, because in aerospace industry about quality, which is paramount, and the precision welding that we do. So the data of those welding parameters when we collect from IoT sensors, now that is getting collected at 500 milliseconds frequency. Okay, and so let's say we have some 300 kind of welding stations, and from that so much of data is coming. Now that we that data is processed by an AI or ML application, which we have developed, and that is given back to the welder real time. So there are challenges in that, including the processing speed, the edge computing, and all that. However, once that is done, then what really we are doing is, it's not limited to actually artificial intelligence, I would say. It becomes a collective intelligence, because there's a varied experience that the welders carry. The hands, they move their hands. Everybody has a different way, the way the skills that they have acquired, which becomes quite handy when we don't have that welder available, for example, today, or maybe that welder has retired, and that skill is gone with him. And in aerospace welding, you have to still depend a lot on in precision welding on manual efforts, which work much better than automation, by the way, in many places. And in many places, we struggle very hard to automate things, and it is not worth it also at times. And so in such cases, it becomes very, very, very useful to, actually it becomes like a knowledge management, which is a different kind of knowledge, how to, carry out that task. Now that is acquired, that knowledge is acquired by the ML or AI, and that is then fed back. So when a new welder who is not used to that type of thing, or he is experienced but in a different kind, with different kind of material. So we use a lot of exotic material in aerospace, as you know. So that, the alerts that they come from the ML becomes, kind of guidance to the welder. They can learn very fast. So that is where the power of data is then getting utilized. So this is one typical use case which we find that it has, huge implications in terms of, this today's, world, lot of changes happening and lot of opportunities opening. And so there is this manufacturing example. Other thing, of course, in all business processes. So when we say manufacturing 5.0, actually we are calling us industry 5.0 as a bigger name to that, where that small M manufacturing control can be escalated to, say, management control and data acquisition, where you have to look at a business process, entire thing. You would look at the data patterns, for example, in estimation. You take, you keep collecting data of the bids that you make, and the success rate or the strike rate that you get, and for what reasons you did not get an order, which becomes maybe, even if your strike rate I'm talking about projects industry, so maybe 20% is your strike rate, probably 80% of the cases you lose. You are not able to secure that project. And so that is a huge data actually. This 20% is not that big data. That is already people know, and that's how we have secured the order, but 80% is lost order. That data, today, otherwise what happens is that people tend to focus on that 20 and what my previous fellow did, I better do that and secure that order. Instead of that, there are ways and means to analyze, and AI can help in that. Is another thing which we are experimenting with. That's not so mature, because here, unless you get the data in, the volume is, voluminous data is available, really, you cannot trust that. And so initial period is very tough. You have to, many times you get, you start losing the, we see that the credibility of what we are doing probably we think that, oh, I think we think that we are not going in the right direction. But that's where we need to have that patience and keep collecting data. Ultimately, it will, give its fruits. That's the 1 or 2 use cases what I could, give as an example. Yeah.
So maybe can you help us with how the process happens at the aerospace industry? How you are using it actually? You told us about it, but how the process flow is happening at your place?
Yeah, so but the process basically it starts with the sensors, obviously. The sensors that we put on, depending on the parameters that we want to monitor. Once the sensors are put in place and the data starts getting collected with edge computing, the processing happens at the back end, but at the real time. And then that, as the model develops, the model matures, you get, better alerts from the model, which previously you could do only with experts. No, you need experts. Maybe a 30 years experience only would reach you there. Whereas here, maybe 3 years of data would be probably giving you that. So that kind of ratio, that is possible with that. So, and then you collect that data, that becomes your repository for the training for the coming generations. And so this is about in the manufacturing, this is how, there are specific clear steps. In business process, it's not very clear. In business process, first of all, you need to experiment with different types of data sets, and then only you really arrive at that, which becomes the very critical portion of the initial study, which can take at times maybe in years, okay, to decide on the right kind of model that we want to develop. There are the, different types of neural networks and other techniques that we use. And we sometimes have to discard certain things and then, arrive at the right. So that becomes the initial kind of filtering process. And then after that, once we have arrived at something similarly to estimation, on the purchase side also, we could, have the similar thing that the, last purchases and what, the bids that we receive as purchases and all that. So once the data gets into the flow, then your, expertise of maybe what you have developed in the organization, that there you need to filter and decide that this is what is the right path for us to follow. Because there is no one clear right path for everybody. There is no global solution to that. You have to have a customized kind of environment, because everybody works in a different way. Every organization works in a different way. And so that's where we need to filter that, then establish that model, and then go ahead with that. Obviously, again, as we are talking about 5.0 and not 4.0, we have to be very vigilant about what we are receiving and what decisions we are to take. We need to know where to discard, where not to, even though your technology is telling you to do a certain thing, you need to have that, maybe intuition or whatever you call it as, or a business intelligence of your own, based on which you, take those decisions. So that another factor is there towards the end of the, accepting the decision. If you, once that, you give okay for that decision to be implemented, then of course it's the execution part, which everybody we are familiar with.
Thanks, Mr. Patwardhan, for pointing out the specifically last point where we have to be vigilant for selecting the right technologies, right product at the place. Looking at the industry or maybe manufacturing 5.0, we are talking about clean energy, we are talking about human-centric experience, sustainability, and I believe these technologies will help us to emerge in the way we are looking forward. And the way the technologies are coming, sooner than the later, we are into the flow. My next question, I will ask Mr. Prashant. Since you are coming from Dassault, we also had some discussion over the experiences between OEM and Tier 1 supplies. Since I happen to be have the experience with OEM as well as the Tier 1 supplies, so I have seen the both side of the table, how the technology evolves or the get directed from the OEM to the Tier 1 suppliers. So I would like to have some insights from your side. We had a
Thank you very much, and I'm really glad to share the dais with distinguished people here, and very insightful, experiences that have been shared here. Just to introduce myself, I'm Prashant Pawar. I lead the business transformation for India West. And I have my colleagues here, Satish and Sunil also. Um, just to catch up on what the topic was said earlier, the Industry 3.0 really was when the mass production really started. And the Industry 4.0 was when you had ability to do mass customization, okay, as per the market requirements. And really coming to the new age industry or manufacturing 5.0 is all about personalization. So with that having been said, the 4.0, which is the current situation and which is the current trend that we are observing in India, of course it was massively adopted in the US and in the Europe because of the age group there. But in India, I think it's good news is that it's still in an exploratory stage. And the way we work is that having Industry 4.0 as a base platform, that is where it is readily available for you to innovate, not just to do mass customization, but you also can get into personalization with the ability to integrate multiple robots, which will work in cohesively with humans, collect data, and then feed it back into the system. So with this platform in place, that is where Dassault Systems comes into picture, where we have a unified platform that not only provides a platform to connect processes, people, and systems as well. So you have the ability to create a virtual twin before it actually gets into the production. So you analyze and you build a lot of what-if scenarios before you actually make the production happen. While the production has also happened, you can also collect a lot of data, like Narendra mentioned. It is very insightful. So you take that data, feed it back into the system, and you are able to then analyze, improve your production efficiency, and see how you can respond faster to the market. That is where we do. And also, Dassault Systems' philosophy is to harmonize product, nature, and life. So that's why the industry is transforming as well. So we also need to ensure that while we are doing mass customization and mass personalization, we also have to ensure that we're giving back to the society and to the planet, so to improve the production as well.
That's great. I've seen OEM is always been on the driving seat when it comes to technology to be driven on the tier 1 side or the tier 2 side. So how's the adaptability when it comes to the tier 1 supplies you have come across, and how the OEM taking it forward, and how do they bulldoze those technologies on the tier 1, or they really happen to have the added edge when it comes to the tier 1 supplies for having those technology in place?
Excellent. Good question. I'm glad that you asked that question. Traditionally, the OEMs have been offering build-to-print kind of orders to the suppliers, and that's how the suppliers have grown. But I think if you really look at the current situation, most of the OEMs are outsourcing their research, and they are co-developing with the tier 1 suppliers. So tier 1 suppliers are no longer involved in just mass production, but they're also involved with OEMs to actually design and build the product for them. So that's where, again, a unified platform comes into a picture, because OEMs have already defined their roadmap on how they're going to move and transform their products. For example, the automotive industry has already moved from the tipping point from ICE engines to electric vehicles, and therefore the suppliers also need to accelerate their response time to the OEMs. So being on the same platform, using the same analogy and technology also helps. So as much as we work with the OEMs, we are also working with the suppliers, considering the know-how gathered, considering the collaboration that we already have, and that helps a lot with us to build the suppliers on the same level of platform with the OEMs.
That's great.
Thank you.
Before moving to Dr. Yashodhan, have anybody come across the 70 hours week working? How good we are at that? And when we are talking about the emerging technologies, AI, VR, we are talking about machine learning, we are talking about human-centric approach, where we will have the approach that we can work our factories without human being there in the factories, knowing the fact we also had the COVID in place, and we had the test, bitter taste what we had, which should not be there. But now we are talking about emerging technologies taking over, other human is designing the future along with robots. And how we are looking at the 70 hours week. Maybe any of the panelists want to take this up. 70 hours week. Are we good to go? Or maybe somebody from the audience wants to speak about this 70 hours week. Anybody?
I think nobody wants to.
I think it's a sensitive
But
topic.
Keep on working. That's important.
That's.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what we are talking about. That is what the forum is all about. We are talking about the same aspects where we are talking about a human-centric approach, having the social presence along with the work-life balance. That is what I believe the outcome of the manufacturing 5.0. And that is, apart from the clean energy, waste management, recycle, I believe this is one of the aspects I want to highlight in this panel discussion. So thank you for that. So moving on to Mr. Dr. Yashodhan, I talked about clean energy. Since you are coming from the battery company, power generation company, power storage company, how you are looking this emerging aspect when it comes to clean energy?
Yeah, thanks. First of all, when we talk in the energy domain, and especially when you work in automotive industry, though it is diesel or petrol vehicles, the one question always there, kitne mein diya aur kitna degi? And customer don't care whether you put hydrogen, green hydrogen, new term, fuel cell, sodium ion, or anything, salt or zinc or whatever. He want to go from A to B in a safe way in 10 rupees in bus, just to give example. People talk about AI, ML, and sometimes they just use the buzzwords. If you are using 8-bit, you can't use AI or ML, because for processing you need more bits on the chip, basically. And based on that, just thought while sitting here, like when we used to go for our special chart shop for many years, by looking at the different families and people, the chat person who gives you a pani puri or bhel, he do customized way by knowing you for many years. He don't use any sensors, no chips, no IoT, but looking, oh, this family, usko khatta chahiye, usko thoda tikha chahiye. This is on a small scale level. When we increase that bandwidth on scalability, we talk about industry 5.0, it's more customizable way. It's like, as Vikas mentioned, going back the circle, I articulated differently. The pani puri wala or chaat wala gives you a customized way. Dell gives started customized laptop you can design. Nike come up with the shoes, putting sensors if you are a runner in a customized size way, on a personalized way. Everything comes with the cost. When we talk about the green technology, manufacturing, it's now a new terms coming up, carbon footprints, carbon neutral manufacturing processes. But if I am making carbon neutral, can I get a tax benefit? Or as a layman, can I get a tax benefit in my tax per year if I am driving certain amount of green kilometers? I mean, these are still the open questions. This industrial 5.0 or cloud manufacturing that I talked earlier helps to have a customized, designable product, which is safe because it's a high energy device, where we have seen a few years back by using Jugaad, people use the battery packs from our neighboring country, put the sticker saying we build it here. They don't use the BMS, which is the brain, because it costs, and which leads to casualties of more than 70 to 80 people in two-wheeler accidents because of the thermal runaway. And this industrial evolution helps by putting the sensors, like when Chartwala gives you a specific thing, the specific application, you use specific sensors. to give early monitoring on your app, like this, if you are parking your vehicle in the extreme summer in Nagpur, Chennai or Guwahati at 45 degrees C outside, where your battery is drained, say in two-wheeler, you can't directly plug in. There is a warning. So these tools help us to give an alert to have a safer operations.
That's great. Thanks for the touch base on the EV. Maybe I'll ask you the same question again. When it comes to EV, we are getting some buzzwords like uska 54% to coal se aata hai, energy charging for the EVs. How we good are about that? How if the figures are changing, 54% of electricity is coming from coal, and most of the vehicles, EV vehicles, are getting charged with the coal generated power. Any thoughts on this?
When we talk about the green, actually when we are staying for on a signal, whether it is Mumbai or Pune or Bangalore, the black smoke which is coming from the truck, if you use the electric, it's not coming. It's not directly impacting on your health. But whether the lithium-ion manufacturing is really green? No. Somewhere it is polluted remote, but direct impact on human body is not there. And for that, for example, Northvolt is doing really green. I hope they will come to a good cost-effective product, because the government plays an important role, giving them the land and other thing in extreme north region in Sweden. But if you are manufacturing in, say, polluted area or in the city, it's not to be a green because of the mining and all that thing, where you need to burn your fuels.
So I touch base on the charging of EV vehicles, where the coal power is getting used. So recent statistics from US is stating that the renewable energy is getting emerged like anything. The way they are evolving, the way they are expanding their power generation is phenomenal. And rather, government of India is also promoting EVs nowadays, knowing the fact the gasoline engines are there, but sooner than the later time, they are getting the number decrease in terms of percentage. The total volume is getting towards EV. And the renewable energy, I touch base on that. So how we are talking about the coal energy, that is one of the aspects. But somehow we can also think about the renewable energies are coming in a boom. We also see the Boyce University also gave some of the solar panels which can be foldable, rollable. You must have seen those videos are coming across. So they are also coming like anything. So that is also one of the aspects we need to consider when it comes to EV as well as the manufacturing.
Just to add on that, when we talk about the solar, 300 days sunlight in India, but still half of India no electricity. Because it's easy to say, oh, I will put the solar power and every solar panel, but my payback, ROI, 7-8 years. And there is a dust, many other parameters, and efficiency is still the challenge for solar. Combining these dots help to have a sustainable energy.
Yes, that is what we are talking about when it comes to manufacturing 5.0 for the clean energy. I will move on to Mr. Patwardhan. It's straight from the user's side. So how is the user acceptance when it comes to these emerging technologies? Since you already have the 4.0 running perfectly fine, and during the implementation, how you see these level of user acceptance on having those new technologies coming across, and how the user is accepting those technologies, how the way look forward for the same?
Yeah, so the good thing to happen is that we are talking about Industry 5.0 already, whereas what we are essentially using in Industry 4.0 techniques for that. But in Industry 5.0, the user acceptance increased to a large extent. For that one reason, that we are keeping the human in the center. And the second portion is when we look at the same picture of human in the center and the technology aiding the human, rather than the other way around where the human is scared about technology taking their jobs. So when that paradigm shift because of Industry 5.0, the user acceptance changes like anything. They do cooperate. We didn't face any resistance as far as that implementation is concerned. They are very happy about knowing more about their process from the machines, and also monitoring And then there is some peer pressure also that builds because of that, which all, goes in a positive way. So we haven't seen any kind of this negative or any resistance to change per se.
That's good to know. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe I think over to you. Any questions from your side, audience? Anything to discuss? Anything to put it forward?
Hello. We are talking about IoT or big data, which is basically the backbone for this manufacturing or industry 4.0 and again 5.0. As one of the panelists mentioned, he has heard about industry 4.0 4 or 5 years ago, but still we are basically not sure whether we have successfully implemented industry 4.0. So what is the panel's view, whether this IoT or big data, which is again depending on the infrastructure, which is the networking or maybe the data transmission, whether these things really may be available to the required extent, and if not, then how this maybe forum can basically help improving on this, because ultimately unless we have the data, we may not be able to basically provide the right kind of automation, right kind of data management, or right kind of services as such.
I believe we can also refer the mobile, how they evolved, starting from the Nokia to now we have the touch-based devices. So that has the technology emerged like anything. So maybe you want to put it forward, some thoughts on the same?
Maybe just quickly, I would like to put some light here. So when we say 4.0 or 5.0, I mean, of course, there is a difference. It could be. So when 4.0 came actually, so people say like it will be seamless without any manual intervention, the entire operation here. 5.0, I don't know, I mean, what else will come on top of that? Who will drive it? So that's a question mark. But as you rightly mentioned, IoT and then integration of these devices turning into utilization of the right data. But from India perspective, I would say, or maybe manufacturing sector perspective, we have to deal with a lot of audits and some compliances. And there is a resistance on that, basically, because when audit comes, then they will ask you who has approved what. You have to put the evidences, and that stops the processes. Actually, this is the fact. But still, we have to adhere with that and think on the technology also, and the risk associated to manage with the audits and all. So it's all a combination. That's why we are, little bit lagging on the trend, simply.
Good. You want to add something? Yeah. Any other question? I hope your question got.
Engaging only one question right now, right? Thank you. One question.
Hello everyone, my name is Madhav and I am from Bigos Auto, which is an electric vehicle manufacturing company. My question to Mr. Gokhale is, in the EV, the 50% of the cost is related to the battery. In the battery, there are plastic components, there are thermal pads, there are cells, and the cost of the cells is the most contributor. Okay, so in India or in other countries, how the research and development is happening to reduce the cost of the cells, so that the EV overall cost will come down and maximum population will go for adopting the EVs. So this is my question.
Yeah, very good question. One thing is that obviously in the other part of the world, people are working 30 years ahead of in the battery innovations. I visited in September BYD. BYD has a wall, 60,000 patents in the US and all. Per day they make 15 to 20 patents on battery and motor innovations. That's the scale, just to give you an idea. And one of the thing is, when you develop any product, typically in the pharma industry it takes 10, 15 years to get that tablet that we eat if we have a headache or fever. But in the battery domain, first LFP came, took 15 years, then NMC is the new technology, it came 7 to 8 years. But now with the innovation and fast track of the manufacturing thing, the supply chain is one of the key, and we have a dependency on neighboring country. So the cost and the safety plays a very important role. People innovate the things, but it takes minimum 5 to 6 years to have that cost-effective solution that you can use in your vehicle. So that process is quite a lot fast track, and that is sustainable. Yeah. But if the war comes, the prices shoot, you might aware, by a few X, and after the war with Ukraine and all, it again gone below. So it's like that.
Thank you.